We are live, sir.
All right, everybody. This is episode 36 of the Beef and Bitcoin podcast with your host, Brett and CH. Today's topics, the future of advertising. Had a great tweet from our boy, Dave Collum. We'll go through that. And, bonds hitting record highs. Again, it seems like each week they're making new highs. So, what does that tell us? What's really going on with bonds? We'll dig into that a little bit, tie everything back to Bitcoin. But other than that, man, how you doing this week?
Doing good. As I was saying earlier, I think we just started living in the peak of times. And I was mentioning before we jump into this whole ad thing, because I was just kind of curious. We were thinking about, there's a possibility that Joe Rogan might actually hold, either the presidential or Democratic debate at this point. That seems ridiculous. But when you think about the cult of people that listen to that stuff now, not cult, but there's just such a mass following and there's such a push on social media that things are very well possible. If something blows up, think about how many things just blow up nowadays because of social media, So that'd be really interesting. And we were just curious earlier, Joe Rogan's podcast is now listened to by 1.5 billion times listened to 1.5 billion times per year at around $50 to $100 million in revenue. Wow. Yeah, so it's pretty interesting. And 100% owned by Joe. No networks, no middlemen, and 100+ million people audience. Think about that, dude. That's ridiculous. He owns it. It's just Joe and a few people.
I like the no middlemen part specifically. Yeah. That's pretty crazy.
Think about that. And you think about I'm sure he pays his employees very well.
I would.
There's no reason not to. He could be paying them well into six-figure salaries easily.
Oh, for sure.
For sure. They could be, and obviously that he might give them stupid bonuses and shit like that. But I don't know. But still, either way, that's stupid money, dude. I don't know if you ever seen that video, and we should probably get back on topic. But there's a video of him, Joe Rogan Cribs. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't seen it.
Oh God, dude. Okay, well, you can watch it after the podcast. It's really funny. He just mocks Cribs, the MTV show. It's one of the funniest things ever. But we can jump into this Dave Collins tweet here. Sorry, we got a little off track there. So here it goes. I'm going to read it right now. Serious question. When somebody makes money off YouTube, where does this money come from? How is their profit? Wealth creation? Underlying YouTube? Careful with the flippant boilerplate answers. Thoughtful ones would be great. And then he continues on. Lots of people telling me it's the ads, but I do not see the ads and certainly aren't noticing them if they are. I ask because I think this is a false economy that will crumble when the budget gets tight. I, for the life of me, cannot say I remember the contents of a single ad ever. I am now recalling the ones that pop up, but never pay attention to them. Never have been even tempted to do so. My suspicion is that corporate America is spending huge ad money, not realizing that they are blowing it into a black void. It is a problem caused by loose monetary policy flooding the world with dumb money. Tight budgets will fix that problem. And that last tweet there is probably tweet of the year because it's really true. If you use Brave browser, you don't get any ads, and I used that for a while. And then, obviously people use AdBlock. It's not revolutionary thing. It's been around Google AdBlock has been around for years. So it's, and then I can't think of a single time a YouTube ad's ever really, intrigued me at all, really. And most of the time I just try to click through them. So they're just, as he says, they're just blowing money into this giant black hole, and it's never coming back. And as he says, loose monetary policy, and this is something we always talk about, it's just money being injected into the system at an incredible rate to keep things going.
Yeah, I think he really nailed it on the last point there, right? It's a problem caused by loose monetary policy, flooding the world with dumb money. Tight budgets will fix that problem. And you always see the snap back to reality when you're forced to stick to a tight budget. All the loose monetary policy just leads to more malinvestment. People are spending money on stupid shit. They're throwing it into ad revenue when, maybe the majority of the people watching just have absolutely no interest in buying. Yeah. And I was trying to think back at
ICO, dude. ICO is marketing, dude.
it was just it was literally pure marketing, and that was highly profitable marketing. So you realize you can just copy and paste words from other white papers. Anybody can launch a token. It was trivial to do that, and all you needed was a decent website and a little bit of marketing, and pay, $100,000 to get it listed on an exchange, and boom, like everybody who was involved became millionaires overnight. And that was just a pure marketing play. There was zero technology behind it.
Yeah, I don't think people realize how insane things got. I still forget how bad things got. Like in that September of 2017, it was just you were getting multiple new ICOs launching a day. It was like 5 or 6. There were because like at midway through September, there was 30 left for the month to launch, and then obviously there were hundreds more planned throughout that fall. I mean, dude, it was the biggest shit show ever. Like, when the SEC started seeing this, they were like, "Wait, what the fuck is going on here?" They're like, "These things are just going from like, pennies to fucking multiple dollars for no reason at all. It is a shit show."
Right. And right, it was absolutely absurd. And
there's nothing like it. I don't think people understand how ridiculous that was.
yeah, on one hand, it was terrible for everyone who was involved, even including me. Right, I got caught up into that, and I thought it was super exciting, but like I didn't know any better at the time, and now it's 2 years later, and I'm wise enough to realize how obvious that was from like a scam marketing standpoint. Like I should have known right away. And all that stuff is really only possible in this. Yeah, like
it's human nature, dude. Like that's all this all is. It's just fucking human nature.
right. The greed and the desire to have your bags pumped and get rich overnight can completely blind you from the obviousness of the truth. And that happened. Like everyone, oh no,
dude, everyone was in alts, dude. It didn't matter who you were. Everyone was in fucking altcoins, dude. It was retarded. It wasn't even like comparable. I mean, think about it. There's so many coins that from the start of 2017 to the end of 2017 were over 100x. That's absolutely insane.
Yeah, it was absolutely insane. And now we're at this point where, money has been tightened up enough over the last what do you call it, 24 months, I guess, and now we're seeing the easing again. The Fed tightened too fast, arguably, or regardless, nobody should be manipulating interest rates. And now you're in this liquidity crunch. And when I think about advertising, I think about two things in particular. One was, do you remember like the Fit Tea stuff on Instagram and all that? Like,
oh, dude, it's so bad.
Like, you can notice how that's kind of dried up a little bit. Like that scam has kind of run its course, and it's no longer profitable. And the other one that I was thinking of, right. The other one that I was thinking of was, do you remember the purple mattresses with like the Sasquatch guy and like dropping the like big plate of glass on top of the bed? Do you remember that from any of the YouTube ads or anything?
I don't remember that one, but I was gonna say, dude, the Instagram thing was definitely, because think about that, there's probably money getting dumped into void, because how many of people's followers, and I don't mean to pick on particular girls, but there's guys too, because you can think about the protein industry too, like the supplement industry, dude.
Oh my god,
dumping money into supplements and pumping them. It's the same thing. How many of those people's followers, are real, and how many of their followers are seeing the content too.
Totally.
And that's why, like, I don't mean to cut you off, but that's why you see all these feeds like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, they're no longer chronological for a fucking reason, dude. They need, people are paying big money to put their shit somewhere, and you scroll past it at the hope that you fucking look into it or might notice it. Right,
exactly.
That's what's going on.
And I think like those kinds of ads drying up was like an early indicator, and I'm not realizing it until now, right? And the hindsight, like I ended up buying one of those purple mattresses, and I just actually got a new one because the mattress was shit. And but the ads were great, and at the time it was $1,000 mattress. Sounds good to me. Like I needed a new one when I moved, and then a year later, like the mattress is destroyed, and I had to get a replacement of it because it was like bowing in the middle, and you just realize a certain company realized they could spend X number of dollars on ad revenue, make the ad like pretty legit, and then sell a product. And now that everyone realizes the product is trash, all the ads stop. Like there are no more purple mattress ads because like I think like the jig is up pretty much, and you're starting to see that more and more. And then that kind of brought me back to thinking like, okay, well, as we move forward um, into an environment with much tighter budgets, as we move towards a new kind of economy, one where hopefully Bitcoin is a part of that, what does the ad space look like in 5 years?
That's a very good question. I mean, completely changed. And I think, as you were talking about earlier, companies where you'd be investing more in capex, whether it's investing in obviously investing in employees, whether it's training, giving them bonuses, investing in factories, you name it, depending on what you're doing. Obviously, it's different. Business is different now. There's more modern things, but instead of just, as he said, blowing money into the void, you're just blowing it into nothing. It's going nowhere. And that's just, we don't think about these things because it's been a long cycle. The cycle is very abnormal when we think
Right,
about it.
right.
It's very abnormal. There's so much money just being pumped. It's just going everywhere, dude. It has to go somewhere. People need to spend it. And it's absolutely incredible. So, and as long as the debt keeps piling, we're going to keep going. That's a scary thought.
Right. I was thinking about ads and how I've seen it change even in the last year or so. And I know things like Patreon have been around for a while already, but I think about even this podcast in general, right? So we do this for free. We do it because it's fun. We do it because
Yeah,
we want to
we
build it.
enjoy
We want to
talking about
build,
stuff.
yeah, we
Yeah,
want to build a following. And
following,
then
yes, yeah.
if in a year from now, if there's a better way for us to monetize, we'll do that. And one of the models that people are going towards is the Patreon model or the fan contribution model, right? The user supported model. If you can provide content that is good enough that people are actually willing to pay for it to make sure that you keep making it, that ends up being more sustainable than shilling really scammy ads and all that other stuff. Like people don't really want to hear that as much anymore. If Trezor came and said, "Hey, we want to do an ad for your podcast," of course I would do it because I enjoy the product. I think it's important for people to hold their own private keys, so on and so forth. But on the other hand, it would be awesome to move to that user supported model. If somebody wants to send $5 worth of Bitcoin every couple of months, and you get enough people that are doing that, you realize you can start to supplement your other income and start to do this full time. The issue you have to realize is the content needs to be good enough that people are actually willing to pay to make sure you keep making it. And I'm hoping that as the next cycle kind of happens, you'll see all of that malinvestment of the really shitty content start to go away. And the good content that is sustainable, that can be user supported or that can have their affiliate links in there. And if people want to buy products, they can use their affiliate link to help that content creator keep going. I really hope that we head towards that model. And I think Bitcoin's interesting there because then it becomes more global. So if you and I want to, buy a little piece of land in an island somewhere and people are willing to pay Bitcoin for us to keep doing our show, like we can do that because all of a sudden the economy just became global. You're not worried about PayPal freezing your account and things like that. So I think that's a nice change from an advertising and business model standpoint.
Yeah. So I just pulled up a tweet from Shy Girl or whatever on Twitter. She posts some pretty good content, and this is the U.S. gross national debt has jumped by $363 billion in 2 weeks since President Trump signed the law that's suspended the debt ceiling. That's up by $1.01 trillion from 12 months ago. That's pretty fucking scary. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the chart. It's like, dude, it's just insane. But that's more money in the system, dude. That's defense contracts filled. That's certain other things being filled. I mean, think about that.
No, yeah, it's insane. And the real question is, what happens?
That money goes somewhere, dude. Someone
Right.
gets that money eventually down the line, and then they go buy something. And it keeps going. And as the velocity picks up, what the fuck happens? I don't know. Are people gonna stop? Are central banks gonna stop QE, or are we just gonna keep fucking going? I think we're getting to that point where it's just getting retarded, like Weimar Republic retarded.
And right. How long do you keep printing? I mean, you have the point where what you've mentioned this a lot. The Japanese central bank owns a large majority of the equities in Japan. What happens when that gets to 100%?
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I can't even comprehend what that even means. But then you can I don't know.
Some of the funniest tweets I see on Twitter is like one was talking or tweets or is someone mentioned basically I can't remember who it was like the year is 2030 and the S&P 500 all the shares are in the back so nothing trades. Like think about how many shares corporations buy back. It's absolutely
Right.
insane.
Right.
They're just reducing the float at a crazy amount and no one thinks about it. No one talks about it, but and that's a huge thing. And people don't realize that was illegal in 1982. Like a lot of the general American population doesn't realize that was legal. So when it's like, oh, Apple decides it's going to buy back like 1 million shares, and I'm just pulling out a random number out of my ass there. But that's the point. Like that's a lot of shares. That's a lot of money that gets, it impacts the price, obviously. It creates artificial demand.
Right. And you can see, you can have a worse year or quarter and your earnings per share will still be the same or going up because there's less shares kind of, I guess, outstanding for lack of a better term there.
Yeah. GE bought so many shares at $30. It was ridiculous in 2016. And then the stock price is down to like $8 now. It's like, you lost like 72% of your money. Like, just gone.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And they're fucked. They're so fucked, dude. No one realizes how bad. Like, oil chart looks. Could you imagine if oil actually went and retested 98 low of $10? Gas would be retarded.
Yeah, it's funny because I was just listening to a podcast with our buddy Raul Pal, and he was saying how he's like, what if GE is one of the first ones to go? And then what happens if oil drops to 50, then 40, then 20? What does that mean? And then you have all the people who think that they're getting paid in perpetuity who worked at GE,
not getting paid.
And that's my point. So that's when things get a little scary, and I think they could. Well, I don't know what I think because I don't know what's going to happen, but it's fucking scary for sure.
Like, my thoughts is and I've read in this before is like. So they have a lot of good assets. Like they make, engines, airplane turbines. They make, train engines, which are obviously pretty important, hauling freight, stuff like that. Certain things would be sold off in the bankruptcy to other companies, but still, like, as you said, the pension system there is fucked. Like, people have been wrecked. Think about it. If you retired in, terrible if you retired in, 2000 from GE, and you just held the stock from fucking $57 down to $8, and then nothing is happening, and now the company's gonna go bankrupt. What happens to all those people? That's a lot of people over for GE.
Right, that sucks.
I mean, and it's gonna happen sooner than later, dude. It's just gonna go.
Yeah, that's the thing, and we've been talking about the same fucking conversation since December of 2018, and now it seems like what we were talking about starting to make a little bit more sense. You have what we talked about last episode with that 175-page report on the accounting issues from GE and not posting their cost of goods sold properly and their R&D expenses.
Look at Macy's. Macy's is fucking going.
It's funny. I just went to the mall today for the first time, and the Macy's was just.
The malls are dead, dude. I had to go there for a phone issue, and fucking they're dead, dude. That is a dead space for, just it's property that hasn't, no one's using it. They made this movie theater even then still.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about this before, just like the commercial real estate bubble and all of that ties into
easy money.
What's happening globally and the easy money, right? That's 100% correct. And you've had people borrow easy and cheap money to then build projects, build new apartments, malls, all kinds of stuff that when people stop buying and lending stops, all of that goes away. And, in that situation, I think my boy Fartface 2000 said it really good the other day, just cash is king at that point. And you just want to be as liquid as possible, not to be able to throw that money down to reinvest it, but just for your own personal protection and sanity. You need to be able to survive whatever happens. And I think it's a good approach. I think it's prudent.
Yeah, no, it's we always talk about the boomer generation, dude. There's so many loaded up in stocks because bonds are fucked. There's no yield. Obviously, if you bought bonds and the price appreciated, you make money there selling them. But your interest is nothing. Now that's why like we talked about that tweet recently with that Saudi Arabian dude, I think it was. They talked about he was talking with a bond fund guy or whatever, and it took him what was it, a week or 2 weeks to sell $23 million worth of bonds.
Yeah, it took him a couple days at the least, but
It was a long time.
in a liquid market you'd be able to just kind of get rid of those fairly quickly. And I think in hindsight, you'll hear talks about like the liquidity crisis, and just because of the tightening and then easing at the end to try to save the system, but it's kind of too late at that point. And we're going to find out here in about a month or so in September when we see another 50 bip and we see a 50 bip cut.
So people have been talking about like, what if Powell just fucked everyone and raised rates and just fucked the whole world? Like he just curveballed it. Dude, Powell's apparently worth over $100 million. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
I just saw something with that. I'll double check it, but I just read something about that.
I mean, I guess that wouldn't be too surprising. I mean, I'd wonder how he made all that money, but
he probably worked at a bank before, dude. It's not 112 million.
Wow.
Net worth between 19.7 and
most people are worth like $112.
Yeah. Jerome's just chilling. Yeah, someone was the tweet was like, for someone who's worth $100 million, you think you wouldn't take shit from the president?
That's so
what
funny.
It fucking was. I mean, I paraphrased it, but that was pretty much it. Like, that's crazy. You want to just hop into this global bonds thing?
Yeah, definitely.
I'll just read. I'm gonna try to say his name. It's Holger Schneips. I can't say it. He's German. His is at Schulden Sewer. I botched that too. I'm sorry. But here it goes. Value of global bonds has hit another record high of almost 57 trillion this week as global yields declined substantially, following Chinese and European econ data, with the 2-year and the 10-year yields curve briefly inverting. European bonds got a significant push following dovish comments from ECB's Ren. Actually, they're referring to someone in the ECB. I do not personally know Ren, but that's what I assume. But it's fucking hilarious because we've went from, in the 90s, if you can see this chart, under 10 million, it might be 5 million, under 5 million in the early 90s or mid 90s to 50, excuse me, not million, trillion. It's in the, But anyway, so we went from maybe 5 trillion to 56 trillion in 20 some years. I mean, it's just, here we go. And I think what people don't realize is manias just go longer than we think. And maybe this gets retarded and they print money more and it's just stupid rate. I could be wrong. Maybe there's a black swan there. But like if we get, as people keep mentioning, the Weimar Republic, like we get things could get really wacky, really, when money starts getting printed too much. Or just too much liquidity. I guess we're not really printing anymore.
Right, and I think that's where it gets really interesting because on one hand, as a normal person, I'm thinking to myself, please don't keep printing us into oblivion and trying to kick the can down the road, and then we end up with a bigger problem. And then on the other hand, as a Bitcoiner, I'm thinking, go for it, print away. I'm stacking sats, I'm holding Bitcoin. I know that eventually I will see the benefits of holding a sound money that cannot be inflated, which supplies 21 million, won't be increased, blah, 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 all that good stuff. You start to see the reality of what scarcity actually means. And as with the last time we saw the cut, literally the day of the cut, Bitcoin took off again. And I would imagine that would be the same. And I think we'll look to Bitcoin and gold, maybe even silver, as that safe haven play, even when the cut continues and more money is pumped into the system. Because while it's, I can understand why you would try to attempt to save the system and not let it fully collapse, even though by the end of that, it would be way better. You can see people are thinking about this and they're flocking to gold. And then
gold is the amount of repatriation. I may cut you off, but like the repatriation, the stacking of gold, and even silver in the case of JP Morgan in the past decade is insane. I think it's just they're like, well, fuck. Just this fiat system's been in place for 48 years. I mean, it's getting close to an end. You can't sustain it. It's not sustainable. People know it. Subconsciously. Right. I mean,
yeah.
And obviously, there's people who know it and aren't saying anything. Jerome Powell's mentioned before. He knows, he's like, we're on an unsustainable fiscal path. He said it in public, and no one But here's the thing: no one fucking if you ask most Americans who Jerome Powell is, they have no fucking clue. And that's our biggest issue. But they know who Donald Trump is. They know who Hillary Clinton is. They know who Barack Obama is. They know George. You know what I mean? George Bush. They know. You could list the people. You could list. Obviously, if you go farther back in presidents, it gets less and less. But still, you know what I mean? Like Jerome Powell plays a huge impact on people's life. So do all the other Fed people and people that have names.
Right, and whether you like it or even believe it or not, it does happen to be true. And it's funny because I never would have cared about any of this shit until Bitcoin. So I do thank Bitcoin for that every day. I feel like I owe
Bitcoin and crypto a lot.
Yeah,
I do really owe it a lot. Like there's so much I've learned, just so much shit I would have never learned had I not really stumbled. I mean, I was into investing and stuff, but like this opened my eyes to so much more shit, dude.
Right. You just totally think about everything differently, and even your investment approach is different. Like you really think about things differently, and even just from from your typical publicly traded company, your regular old equity, you're really thinking twice about that business model. Yeah. Whereas before, I could see myself thinking about like a WeWork or Lyft IPO or something. I'm like, I like that product, or Uber even, like I like that product. I use it, why not? And I didn't think twice about, whether or not they're profitable. But the funny thing is, I said the same thing about Amazon in 2012, when I was buying Apple shares or Amazon shares, and then ultimately selling them at like $120 a share because they weren't making money at the time. And I didn't have the foresight to see the exponential growth of, Amazon Video and 2-day delivery and, the best prices you can get. Like, it's really hard to see out that far. The human brain isn't meant to kind of understand like exponential kind of growth and technologies and how much actually will change. And I'll tell you what, in 2012, Bitcoin didn't even cross my mind, even though it had existed for 3 years already. I probably wouldn't have thought anything of it, to be quite honest with you, because not many people did, unless you had, you know what I mean? Like, so it's really hard, but now you have this Austrian lens that you're looking at everything and you're really skeptical and you're like, does any of this make sense?
We were S1. I might have to read this later.
Yeah, it's interesting. Our good friend Stockmaster 2000 had a great...
2000. If you don't follow him on social, you're missing out. Like,
he's amazing,
dude. He should. I wish he made an Instagram just because he just needs to be. He's the JT. He's the best.
No, he really is. He really is awesome. But I like him because he's telling the truth, and he's being legit about it. And we try to bring some of that truth when we talk about this stuff as well. At least I hope that we do. But
should we? I gotta play one of these. I need to find
the one where he talks about the WeWork one is really good.
There's a couple good ones. I'm gonna go to his media. There's obviously some good ones in here. There's one where he like really rips in when they released the S1.
Yeah. That's the one. I watched that one. It was a pretty interesting 2 minutes.
This one right here.
I can't see it on your screen yet.
Yeah, we'll see. There's one from I think.
Nah, I don't think that's it. Yeah, that one might be it.
216.
He's like sitting at the table.
Reading through this prospectus on WeWorks, I just love it. You know what's interesting? Their real estate portfolio, it basically is like a company that is based out of the Cayman Islands. That's a subsidiary of a company based out of Switzerland. That is a subsidiary of a subsidiary that's operated out of Monte Carlo, that's operated out of the Cayman Islands. I really like these people. They've used pretty much every layer of technique that they can do and save themselves some trouble from the government later on down the road. Class A common stock, I love it. No voting rights, don't even bother. They've also included as many classes of stock as humanly possible. They're really employing the full spectrum of everything that they're allowed to do in here, that no matter what they do. whether it's financing. Talking about financing for a second. I want to know who gave them credit for $48 billion in leases. How does that even happen? I need to perpetrate this kind of scandal. By the way, whenever you hear some of these words that they have in here, like philosophically, you don't want to buy any company that says that. We're a company committed to maximum global impact. Our mission is to elevate the world's consciousness. Either you're a company or you're fucking Buddhists. This is a total sham. They built a worldwide growth platform that shared experiences and true successes. They make no money. They lost $2 billion last year. And they're going to give away $1 billion that's not theirs. I'm going to keep harping on that because it's totally egregious. There's nothing in here that makes sense. It's totally ridiculous. They employ 500 designers and architects, 2,500 trained community managers who foster human connection through collaboration and holistically support our members both personally and professionally. I have to tell you something. This is a scam. This company is a joke. You cannot conflate business with your, your altruistic intentions to save the planet. That's the problem in Europe. When you conflate business and economics with your, your policies to save the earth and the trees and no straws, this is how you go out of business. This is a real joke. And since I'm limited in time because of Twitter, they have 1,000 engineers, product designers, machine learning scientists that are building, integrating automated complex systems to use to operate our business. Oh my God. I can't even take this seriously. I really think that this is a parody. This is a joke. A joke. Yeah, my friend has a sign on the wall, don't eat late because she's a late night eater. So don't mock her. Mock this S1. I can't even, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you could hear that because I had no sound, but it's fucking great. I mean, I want to see him on CNBC. He needs to go on CNBC.
He's legendary.
Oh, he's fucking legendary, dude. He's gonna blow up, dude. He's already at 8,000 followers, and he's been around for like 2 weeks, dude. Like he's gonna be like at 100,000 followers soon. Like all the finance guys follow him. Like he's just gonna blow up. Recognized as a national treasure by was he on? Maybe he was on there. I don't know. He keeps asking to be put on, which he should because he's just railing into all this bullshit. Beyond and weed, they're just fucking. He's just like, these are retarded. This can't be. They're so far beyond,
And I think this is a good example of, in a year from now, 2 years from now, like take a big step back and just look around and just remember all of the things. Like a lot of these should have been warning signs.
Chewy, pets.com 2.0, basically.
Yeah, like, these will be, blatantly obvious in hindsight. Hindsight's always 20/20. But try to notice these things now and figure out what around you just doesn't make any sense, and try to understand or think about, can it even survive recessionary circumstances, or if budgets are tight or money's tight, like what are people actually spending their money on? Really think about that and figure out what kind of adds value and why it's important.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. So I'm just going to read part of the prospectus from WeWorks at the end. In 2010, we opened our doors to our first member community at 154 Grand Street in New York City. In the beginning, our members consisted mostly of freelancers, startups, and small businesses. Over the past 9 years, we have rapidly scaled our business while honoring our mission. Today, our global platform integrates space, community, services, and technology in over 528 locations in 111 cities across 29 countries. Our 527,000 memberships represent global enterprise across multiple industries, including 38% of the global Fortune 500. We are committed to providing our members around the world with a better day at work for less. Yeah,
I don't know. That just
dude. This is like reading an ICO. This is like an ICO. This is the same thing, dude. It should be fucking ICO white paper.
It pretty much is the same thing.
And dude, I've read so many of those. It's the same fucking thing. It just looks fancy, and they're selling you shit, but people are gonna throw money at it.
Right. I mean, and that's kind of the reality. And I think and I hope that that's starting to slow down here, because it really just does not make any sense. But again, we're not going to know until 6 months, a year, 24 months from now, when it'll be really fucking obvious in hindsight.
Beyond's got a fat gap at 105. That could be interesting. That gets filled. which it will eventually. But Beyond could be a stock that could be single digits by the end of the year. I mean, that's a crazy thought. I mean, like there's going to be again, like I think on Robinhood. Let's see where it's at. It's gotta be. It's climbing up the ranks for sure. People are probably like, it's going cheaper. Uncle Jay ripped into it. Stockmaster 2000. His rant on. He's like, you can't even chart this thing. It doesn't. It has 100 days history. It's at 44 now.
Wow.
But you can. But I mean, it's only been around for so long, dude. So I mean, it's going up.
Yep. People love it.
But people sold. Some people sold when it went down, dude. Look at that. 2,000 people fucking gave up. Let's see. People gave up. Defeated, dude. 219 down to 146. Dude, think about that. Like, if you put like even $1,000 in, you're at $600 basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you're pretty sad. Like, there's people who've done that probably.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, dude. Fucking that Doji over there said like a couple weeks ago, I was like, this might be the end of Beacon investors, and here we are, 35-40% later. I mean, dude, it's just the selling's gonna. I mean, and I think the Beyond insiders are trying to dump right now. I think they're getting pretty close or something.
That would make sense. Yeah,
they might have enough. I think it's usually 6 months, but they might have done something else. I think they're like releasing a secondary issue offering. That's what it was, the secondary offering.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, this here again, as we talked about, it's just free money is pumping in the system, and people are just throwing it at things.
Yep, and that's what we're going to see happen until the faucet kind of turns off. People stop doing that, and then it's back to reality. Yeah,
it's going to be interesting. I don't know where this ends now. Because the thought of just printing money now and the unlimited amount. I mean, the fact that the government debt just went up 300 and some plus billion in like 2 weeks or whatever. It's like, well, I mean, that money's going somewhere. I don't know where it's going, but it's going somewhere. It's going to get in the system, and it's going to pump something.
Yep.
Damn.
Yeah. What do you think? Is that a good way to wrap it up?
Yeah, I was just gonna read the online pet store. This is talking about chew. I just read this and we can wrap it up here. The online pet store reported first quarter net losses of $29.6 million or 8 cents a share, compared to with losses of $51.5 million or 15 cents a share. In the year ago period, revenue rose to $1.12 billion from $76.4 million, and in the year ago period, so I mean, they're obviously still losing money. It's not as incredible as something like Uber, but still.
Yep, it smells fishy to me.
I mean, $29.6 million is still a lot of dollars. A lot of money. I mean, they're making $1.12 billion, so there's the bet that they can keep going. But as we talk about what happens when people stop spending money, what happens when the debt cuts off, as you said, what happens when the faucet turns off, that's when the issue becomes if people are going to stop buying expensive things for their pets. I mean, it's just reality. It's sad reality, but we'll see. And people stop buying pets because pets are fucking expensive.
That's very true.
Dude, I don't get it. Like, people, like, when you, like, well, I mean, I get it. I like dogs. I get it. But, like, when I see people who are young who have, like, a shit ton of pets, I'm like, wow, you just money pit.
Oh, totally.
It's a money pit, dude. It's like when, it's just a fucking money pit. And there's nothing against it, but it's like you're better off getting a dog later on when you have them, not just dumping money when you're young to dogs. I'm referring to younger people, not older people. Talking about people in their younger 20s for the most part. But anyways, I think that's a good way to wrap it up. That's just me talking about, maybe some areas we could save some money instead of just dumping money into pets. It's nothing against pets, but hey.
Yeah, be smart. Save your money. Stack sats.
Yeah, save your money. That's a really good point. That's the biggest issue with America. There's no saving. It's fucked. Well,
all right.
Peace.